Welcome everyone. I'm Samantha Magee with the Danos marketing team, and today we're here with Scott Theriot, who is the General Manager of Supply Chain Services, and Damien Gardner, who is Supply Chain Manager. Thank you guys for being here today.
Good morning.
Appreciate you having us.
Today we are going to talk about Danos i²ms. Tell us what that is for those who don't know.
So i²ms, it stands for Intelligent Integrated Material Solutions. It's our supply chain services division within Danos. It was kind of formed out of us just living our purpose here in the organization of, solving big challenges for our customers. So I guess the idea of it was started forming about 10 years ago when we were just hearing from our customers that they wanted more in this space. Traditionally Danos being a labor organization and providing labor to the oil and gas industry, in the supply chain space, they were looking for more. And that continued to get louder and louder from the customers. And around 2020, we got together with industry experts in the supply chain space, and we came up with a service model. So a lot of people get i²ms confused with us being a technology company, and we do have a technology aspect of it, but our purpose is to bring people, processes, and technology together to provide a true service model in the supply chain space for oil and gas.
How does this stand apart from traditional materials management services in the industry?
So if you think of the way that we try to operate, we operate in a way that our customers could really outsource their materials management or supply chain functions within their organization. So we have specific MSAs in place with service level agreements that are business driven, and that's how we're measured. And then they really just have to manage a contract, and we take care of the rest for them.
You mentioned that you started about 2020. How did COVID have any impact or effect on that? Because wasn't that right during the middle of the COVID pandemic
It
shutdown?
was in the middle of COVID. It really wasn't I guess, like from COVID.
Yeah.
So we started talking about it probably the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020. We had took over a contract for one of our clients, and 2020 kind of just expedited the process because a lot of our customers started laying off and had to downsize their organizations. So in this specific customer, when they downsized their organization, there was a big gap in the supply chain portion of their organization. So we were able to step in and provide a solution for that.
And we kind of touched on this a little bit, but can you talk about how Danos' i²ms really reflects the Danos purpose and values?
Yeah, so as far as our purpose of honoring God, developing great people, and solving big challenges for our customers and communities, that portion of solving big challenges for our customers, like I just mentioned, is a big part of us living that out. And the customer service piece is at the forefront of what we do, and care for people. That those things are non-negotiable, and that's the same driven values that we have within Danos. We try to live that and walk that every day in the way that we operate.
And when it comes to solving big challenges for our customers, we had to realize that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So in the i²ms space, we're able to kind of tailor fit or tailor customize whatever it is that our customer is looking for. For example, last year we had a customer come and request that we kind of merge two roles together, which didn't exist. So we had to look at our workforce and look at our training and things like that in order to comprehensively come up with what it was that they were looking for. And now that we've transitioned into that and provided it, we can kind of look at what went well, where we are now, and how to further leverage that opportunity.
And you guys have both been at Danos for quite a while, right? So did that, you think that was part of the influence in making sure that those are driving factors in this service?
Well, I've been with Danos for about 13 years now, and forward-facing the customer per se. So with everything that we were hearing, it just kind of fit, and being able to solve those problems and identifying those gaps presented the opportunity.
Yeah, and I've been with Danos for 20 years this year, and I know Damien and two of our other managers that are on our management team. When the customers kind of started talking about wanting more in their space, the idea of this, those guys were working for me on a customer account. I was an account manager at the time, and we had kind of started talking about that idea 10 years ago. So that's one thing we're really proud of is the development and the promotion from within the organization. So our operations manager, Amir, has been with us for 10 plus years. He actually went work for a customer, and we got him to come back as our ops manager. And then Derek Atkins, another supply chain manager we have, was working on that same account with Damien 10 years ago, and he's been with the organization for over 10 years. So we have a lot of experience in this space, a lot of experience with the customers we work for. And then we have a senior supply chain manager that works for us, BJ Hooker, who also has 20 plus years in the industry, but he's been with us for going on 5 years now.
Developing great people, right?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
That's awesome. So switching gears a little bit, logistics and control tower capabilities. Can you tell us a little bit what that is for someone like me who is not in that space? Tell us what that is and why that's important.
Yeah, so this is a perfect example of how we bring different technologies to the table. So, we spend a lot of time at conferences, supply chain conferences, to kind of see where, technologies and other verticals outside oil and gas might fit. Because, what we've seen is our customers struggle over the years of trying to get these off-the-shelf products and systems in. So in this space, the control tower it's actually a system that was created in-house by one of our partners, and it brings the other systems together. So they integrate with our customers' ERP systems, with their logistics systems, TMS systems that they have, warehouse management systems, and it just brings it all into one platform. So our customers and employees are able to see and kind of live and breathe out of one centralized location. So we have dashboards with KPIs that have data-driven solutions in them and data-driven results. So it's just kind of that centralized spot for our customers to go to.
That's cool. So is it? Sorry, Damien, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Is it so? Different customers can have different ERP systems or different whatever softwares they're using, and doesn't matter what those are, those can all integrate into the control tower?
Yes. And that, I think to Damien's point earlier, how there's not one fit, that was something we had to learn. So early on when we went into the market with this model, we had a vision that, hey, we're gonna have this solution that's gonna fit every customer in oil and gas. And what we quickly realized is we can't. There's no solution that's going to fit every one of them because of different systems, but also because they operate differently. Their processes are different. So we really have to go in and understand our customers, and then the solutions are really tailor fit for their operations.
And I think that's one thing that we do really well as far as understanding our customers and understanding their needs. One thing that we have to realize is that the oil and gas industry is, it's kind of niche. So there's specifications and things like that. Like you say, you can't just, put them all in a box the same way. They venture out to produce oil and gas, but never did they say, hey, we want to be a marketing firm or we want to be a transportation firm. They have to get their products to their customers. So that's where we come in and provide that solution so they can focus on what it is that they do best.
So do we have customers outside of the energy industry, or are we mostly in the energy space currently?
Currently, we're just in the energy space, so downstream, upstream and midstream predominantly. We do have a partner they focus mainly downstream, which we just announced the partnership with Axion Logistics. So they complement us on the downstream side of things, but they also have a logistics component, a trucking transportation component to them. So right now we want to focus on solidifying ourselves as the leading 4PL provider within oil and gas. Once we solidify ourselves there and we feel that we have a good customer base and we're doing it really well, then we'll look to venture out, because supply chain is supply chain. So we'll be able to venture out into other verticals. But right now, our strategy is to really solidify us and build a foundation within oil and gas.
Can you explain a little bit more what 4PL is for those who aren't in the supply chain world?
Right. So 4PL is more of managing 2PL and 3PL. So a 3PL organization would be a company that they own their own assets. So they might own trucks, they might own warehouses, things like that. 4PL provider will actually manage that ecosystem of 3PLs working underneath them.
So going back to some of Danos's values, I'm talking about safety. How does i2ms leverage technology to really reduce safety risks within the warehouse and other environments?
So when it comes to safety, i2ms has the same approach that Danos, the parent company, has. In reference to our implementation of technology, when you're looking at the systems that we integrate with, you're looking at like RFID, radio frequency tags and things like that, barcoding, and just processes that are in the system. All of those things reduce redundancy as far as people physically having to touch material. So whether it's doing inventory with a drone or handheld devices and things like that, if you cut down on how many times a piece of material has to be touched or has to be moved, then naturally you cut down on any accidents that could happen with product optimization in the warehouses as far as where things are placed and how things are stored. Those systems allow us to have good housekeeping, preventing trips, falls, spills, and things like that. What else? Also, another component that a lot of people don't take into consideration is the human error factor when it comes to data management inside of a system, which could lead to someone potentially receiving the wrong part or installing the wrong part on the asset, which could cause a catastrophe at that point. So with these systems, they're there to mitigate these issues, and then this causes our safety record to state what it is. We're able to keep our employees safe, and we're able to keep our Danos safety record impeccable with our partners in safety.
So you mentioned, if something messes up in the system, you potentially could have the wrong product or the wrong part being installed on an asset. How do you work with the customer to really make sure that we mitigate those risks and other risks?
Well, it basically comes down to having a good, trained, knowledgeable, skilled employee that recognizes, what material they're working with, what customer they're working with, and then there's checks and balances within the system all the time as far as looking at your part numbers and things like that to ensure that, hey, this is the part they selected, this is the part that we have on hand. Just the key attention to detail that, AI, machine learning can, assist with are the things that we have access to and are able to provide to the customer.
Yeah, and I think, talk about the workforce and labor, it's getting harder and harder to find people these days, right? So the experience is kind of walking out the door. So you have to really bridge that gap with technology. And when we're looking for our technology partners, we are looking for, the user interface to be very simplistic and something that's easy for our employees to walk in and learn on. And there are checks and balances. So our warehouse management system that we utilize, we're able to attach pictures to everything that we're bringing into the warehouse. So when somebody's calling for a part offshore, they could actually see what they're calling for, right? So you're putting eyes on it without actually being at the site. So it's some of those things that'll help mitigate some of those risks that are out there.
Mm-hmm. Good. You mentioned with technology partners. How many different technology partners are we working with?
Oh, man. Today, we have a few. We have at least 10 partners today across that we're working with or talking to, right? Mm-hmm. And some of them are further down the line that we just haven't gotten there with our customers yet to utilize their technologies. So a lot of people think it's as easy as flipping on a switch and I could go, tag everything in my warehouse with RFID tags and go count my inventory with drones. But it starts on the front end. You have to get your data cleaned up, and you have to make sure that your front end and all of that is clean and in a right state to be able to, that foundation is set, and then you can start introducing technologies on top of your systems. But it's a process to get there, and that's part of what we do is help. We do some consulting, so we'll help out and walk our customers through that as we're helping get them set up.
And so what do the customer success stories look like? You're holding their hands, you're walking them through all these different technologies, utilizing all the service offerings. Tell us a little bit about some of those customer success stories.
Yeah, I think, we mentioned earlier about that customer that was, they tightened up their organization through COVID, right? So when we came in, that was really the first time we rolled this model out to a customer, and it was almost our full service offering. But I mean, that customer within an 18-month to 24-month period was able to see a 25% percent in total cost of ownership. So we were able to reduce their working capital by $28.3 million. We were able to find $22 million of material for investment recovery that we were able to either scrap or sell off through auctions.
22 million, that's a lot.
Yes, it is. It is. And if you think about it, a lot of our customers, if you don't have visibility into your inventory, you don't know what you have. So you might have parts that are sitting on the shelf that are dormant, that haven't moved for, 5-10 years, that you don't even need anymore.
And you don't realize the value that's sitting there.
Right. And you might, you're able to either sell it or scrap it and get it off your books. A couple of other things, we had about $11 million in cost avoidance. So giving them visibility into that inventory, you were able to use some of that where they would have maybe ordered those parts again, but we were able to use it on another job. It was left over from a previous job that they did a couple of years ago. And then just service level improvement. So we were able to improve their service levels from 46% to north of 90%. So,
what do you mean when you say service level improvement?
So having the right material at the right place at the right time, right? And materials management, that's what it's all about. So whenever they called for a part, it was there. We got it to them when they needed it, and it was at the right place, when they called for it. So when we took over the operations, they were, it was less than 50% of the time when they would call for something, they would have the right part. They would maybe have to go order it again, or thinking they had it, or they couldn't find it. And then by the end of the 2 years, we were able to get that, north of 90%. I think we were around 94% service level.
So you talk about, every customer is different. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Can you just give a generic overview as, customer calls and says, I need your help. What are the next steps? Where do they go from there?
So we'll put a team together. It's typically our management team. It'll be me and either our ops manager or one of our supply chain managers will go in with that customer, and we'll kind of evaluate their current state of operations and see how their processes are. And then we'll come back to them with a proposed solution. And usually the solution that we come back, they never usually take it like as is, right? So there's some negotiations that go back and forth, and then we come across an agreement on how we would get started with them. So most of our customers don't take our full suite of offerings right off the bat, right? And that's what's so great about our model. It's more a la carte. So we could start very small with a customer, build the trust, and then we'll add on to the services as we move through it.
So you can kind of pick and choose what you want and when you want to add it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, giving them the options of what's available and kind of let them select, also based on what we feel would be an improvement to their current processes or systems. We can offer that as a suggestion, and then it's a back and forth, commentary type thing. A lot of people, we have problems creating, but we, are proficient at critiquing. So if we put it in front of them, they can either build it up or chop it down, but at least, it gives them a good place to start.
So what does the future look like for i2ms, and especially as part of the growth strategy of Danos and how that fits in?
Yeah, so our future vision for i2ms and our vivid vision is to become the leading 4PL provider in the oil and gas industry. So we're taking steps in doing that. We announced the partnership with Axion to help bring that transportation piece that we're missing to be the 4PL. We've also opened our own distribution center in Larose. It used to be Danos' old fabrication shop off of Highway 308. And that's really, we're looking for that to kind of be our showcase warehouse for our customers. And, as we're seeking out new technology partners, our vision is to kind of see us testing out a lot of those technologies there in our own warehouse before kind of bringing it to our customers. So
what are some of the benefits of having that warehouse in Larose?
we're able to test out those technologies that we want to test out, because sometimes when you're operating a customer's warehouse, there's some restrictions on what you can and can't do, and you're limited on that. Whereas when we have our own warehouse, it's a little easier for us to do that. But in terms of benefits for our customers, the distribution center is 30 miles, from Port Fourchon. So within 45 minutes, we can get our customers their material, to the port fairly quickly. We're within the boundaries of the levee system for South Lafourche, so it's protected from flooding and storm surge. So we're able to take care of our customers' materials and equipment there, and it keeps us actively operating in South Lafourche as well. So
Another thing is we can service multiple customers out of the same location. Not only that, but they get access to i2ms material management versus what they would have had in place at a third-party vendor site or something like that. So the quality of the management and, like I said, the implementation of the technology on site is a benefit.
yeah, and they're shared costs. So right now, a lot of the warehouses we operate are on the customer's property, and it's their warehouse. So they're paying full costs for equipment, personnel, technology. When they store their material in our facility, they're sharing that cost because it's spread across the whole facility. So it's not just one customer paying for everything.
Danos i2ms, as it is now, so it started in 2020. It's been about 5 years. How has that growth, how has that changed since we started, and how is that different than where you thought you were going or where you thought you might be?
I think I'd go back to what we spoke about earlier about us thinking that we had a one-size-fits-all solution, and I think at the beginning too we were going after a lot of the major oil producers, and now we're looking, we're able to support more of the independents, and Larose has helped us do that, because a lot of the operators maybe on the shelf or smaller operators that they might not have the capital to build their own preservation maintenance facility and have a big 200,000 square foot warehouse. They don't need that space either. We give them another option that's more cost effective for them, so they could still see the benefits of having a PMF or a warehouse distribution center without having to pay the full cost for that.
And the same thing goes to the technology, trying to bring the oil and gas industry into the 21st century. It's, easy for one of the majors, but like you said, for one of the smalls or the mids, they might not have the capital for the WMS implementation or stuff like that. But with the innovation that we provide, you're able to kind of, cater it down to their specific need and their specific budget.
And you talk about technology. I mean, it's changing rapidly these days. Where do you see that the technology going that maybe could benefit i2ms and benefit the industry, in the next couple years?
I think, AI is going to play a big part in it. We're seeing a lot of those startups coming out, with AI capabilities within their systems. That's one of the things we were looking at in the control tower system that we're going to be utilizing, that we utilize is, we're able to make some of those predictive analysis through the data that's being driven through the system. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that, which I think in turn is going to help our customers plan better. And that's oil and gas. That's probably the biggest gap that our customers have today. Is some of them struggle. Most of them struggle with planning. So once they could get that down pat, but they just don't have the data to make those decisions. So I think as we evolve and AI gets more, and people kind of get less scared of AI. I think a lot of people are scared of AI, that it's going to replace the workforce that we have today, but we need to really embrace it because it's a tool that we could use to help make our jobs easier and more efficient.
We've seen some of the implementations that are coming out as far as technology on the assets from our customers. So, scaling down from a large size asset to a small asset that's capable of producing the same amount of oil and gas. We have to be able to change with that. So you look at material optimization because the footprint of the warehouse or the material space is not the same as it was on that large asset. So whether they're storing material offshore or at the onshore facility, like you said, the machine learning, AI, and all of the data can speak to whether you need this part offshore and on hand, or can it be onshore, to free up space for something else. So all of that combined kind of gives them a lean approach to moving forward in the future.
To be open to change and really embrace the technology and the artificial intelligence that's available to us to move forward and really succeed, in the industry, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else to add, guys?
I think another part of what we bring to the table, people use the keyword of innovation, right? But innovation doesn't necessarily have to be technology. It can also be with the development of our people. And that's one thing that we have done well with i2ms as far as promoting and developing, from the inside. And we look at our talent pool, and we look at the up and coming leaders within our space. And, we kind of form what it is that we, go after or approach based on the talent that we can deploy to service, those type of opportunities.
Yeah, and I'd say that's one thing that really uniquely separates us from our competition is, we've kind of built off of that account manager position in production where we were always good, and we were still good at customer service and care for employees. But one thing about our supply chain managers like Damien is they've lived the lives that our employees are living, and they've really, subject matter experts in the space. So two things come with that. Our employees get technical support from their supply chain managers. They have a manager that they could go to help them and kind of bounce ideas off of. But then our customer also gets essentially a built-in consultant within the services that we're offering. So it just kind of upgrades that level of service that our customers are getting, and our employees as well.
One thing we didn't get to ask, how many employees do we have in the supply chain team?
So right now at i2ms we have about, I think we're right at 130 today. Yeah.
That's good. How has that grown?
It's grown. When we first started, it was about 50, I believe. So we've gotten close to 70 employees, 70, 80 employees. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you both so much for joining us. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure our audience will learn a lot as well, and looking forward to see how i2ms continues to grow and make changes in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.